Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel. Towards the end of December, the end of 2023, I realized I had a few arcs that were set to be released in early 2024, so I decided it was finally time to get to those, and I decided it would be a fun idea to do a little vlog with it, so that way you guys can see my thoughts on these books that are coming out soon and maybe get you excited to read some of them. So 3 of the arcs that I read were from NetGalley. One of them I actually won in a giveaway. And if you are newer to like the book community and you don't know what an ARC is, it stands for Advanced Reading Copy, and that is when publishers will allow you to get an early copy of their book so that you can review it, read it and review it before it comes out and kind of get people excited to read it and give honest feedback. So that's what this vlog is, reading 4 arcs that are coming out pretty soon. So I'll let you guys go ahead and get into the video. So I am now 30% of the way through Grey Dog by Elliot Gish, and I apologize for not updating you guys earlier, but I kept telling myself like I have to stop and do an update, but this book has me so like entranced and like enthralled in the story that I do not want to stop. I don't want to put this down and stop reading. Like I literally could just sit there and read this whole thing and not even come and update you guys, but I will because that is the point of this vlog. So first of all, Grey Dog takes place in the year 1901. So starting off, it's already got like a very interesting like sort of gothic vibe to it. And it is told from our main character Ada's diary or like journal entries. So it's just like the date at the top, and then she's just kind of writing about her day and her experiences. So Ada is this woman who I don't think they ever explicitly said what her age is, but I feel like it's kind of hard to tell how old she is because in some scenes she seems very young, and then in other scenes she seems like a little bit older. But I think I would say maybe she's in her 20s or so. And we know that something happened in her past, but we don't have a lot of details about it, but we know that there was some sort of scandal, maybe something that may have caused her to lose her last teaching job. So now she gets offered this new job. Like they don't ask any questions, they just take her. And so she's saying that she has to be grateful for that because a lot of other places like wouldn't hire her if they knew what this thing was that happened. So she gets this teaching job in this very, very small like rural town, and she has to travel there, and she is living with this married couple while she's there, a very rundown schoolhouse, and they've had a hard time like keeping teachers. So a lot of the kids are not very educated and not very open to the idea of going to school and learning new things, and are just very kind of don't have a lot of like structure in their lives, so it's a little bit hectic with the children. This book is horror, but I will be honest with you guys, like this is very like slow burn, like very, very slow progression because there really hasn't been any horror happening so far. But despite there not really being like horror things happening, there is definitely like this very creepy feeling, like something weird is going on in the background here, something odd and something strange. So I'm very excited when things start to piece together and get revealed a little bit more. We have gotten little sort of hints where she's been like in this forested area or in the woods, and it's just a very weird and unsettling thing. She says like the whole forest goes silent. She just had this weird like bug hallucination type of thing. There was also a quote that I really liked where she was in the woods and she was like exploring. This was like her second or third date, and this little girl finds her and helps her like find her way back, and she's like, oh, thank you so much, like I don't know what I would have done, I probably would have been lost out there. And the little girl just says, it's a good thing that I found you. And that makes me curious, like what's gonna happen? So the plot and the writing style has me absolutely hooked. It also is a little bit gay, which I didn't know going into it. I'm sure it's advertised, but I guess I didn't really pick up on that. So she has developed this friendship with the minister's wife, but now, not even now, just like from the beginning, it has seemed a little bit of a romantic undertone, like unspoken romantic connection between the two. So I'm here for that, and I'm ready to see it develop more. The writing I am absolutely obsessed with. I believe this is a debut novel, but I am just blown away by the writing. I'm gonna find some highlights on here for you guys. I just feel like it is very, very descriptive and really helps to paint a picture of the atmosphere. So there is this point where she finds like this little bird skull in the woods, and instead of saying like, oh, I picked it up very gently, she says, a gem cutter could not have handled a diamond so gently as I did that precious object. And I feel like that's just a really good way to describe it. There's also this quote where she is really setting the scene, and she says, there are certain autumn days that seem bathed in gold, days when the very air is sweet and heavy, the wind carrying with it delectable perfume of ripe apples and falling leaves. And I feel like that's just a really good way to put it. Like, I feel like you can read that and you can picture exactly what the author means, like that perfect fall day. I don't know, I love the writing. So like I mentioned, there haven't really been a lot of very big horror things that have happened, but the few like hints of weird, ominous things, I really, really enjoy the way those are done. Like they really do a good job of just like making you feel creeped out. For example, this line says, every creature in the woods seemed to be holding its breath, watching, waiting. It was going to touch me. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And then later on, she's describing like that sort of feeling again. And she says, I saw no one, heard nothing, but a sense unbound to any bodily mode of perception screamed a warning deep within my guts. And I feel like the writing and the way that is done just is perfect for giving you that really unsettled feeling, even though you don't know what we're unsettled about just yet. This book also has a lot of social commentary to it. There is a lot of discussion of religions and churches, and also like a lot of feminist undertones where the women in the story are talking about the expectations set upon them by men and how it's just kind of like normal to be in a relationship with a man even though it's not a great relationship, or like the minister's wife giving up some of her dreams in order to marry this guy and have like a seemingly easy life. There's also this quote about God that I really like. It says, there is the God of inside, the God of churches and prayer meetings and all that. And then there is the God of outside, the God that lives in the trees and in the dirt and the insects and the birds and the things that eat them too. And then later on says, why would we leave a sermon with our limbs heavy and our eyes drooping, but come in from a day in the woods humming with life? Which I really like that. So obviously very heavy on like religion talk. There's also this widowed woman that lives in the town that is kind of like the one that everybody spreads rumors about, and the children whisper that she's a witch. And this woman is fully aware of this. So they have this really interesting conversation at one point where she's saying like, you know, every town needs somebody, that lonely woman that they all point their finger at and call a witch, and just very interesting commentary on, like I said, the expectations of women and when people view a woman that is alone, or like an unmarried woman, or a woman that is confident in herself and not fully submitting to like her husband or like another partner. I don't know, I think is really interesting. The main character as well has some past trauma having to do with her sister. There is a lot of talk from early on. We know that her sister has died, but we don't know exactly what happened, but we know that there are some dark circumstances surrounding her death. And so I'm really, really interested to see how more of that trauma and just that past really comes into the story and into the main character's like feelings and discussions and actions. Anyway, I'm gonna get back into Grey Dog now, because if it wasn't obvious, I am loving this book. Just the atmosphere and the writing of it just makes me not want to put this down. Like every second of the day that I'm not reading this, I am still thinking about it. So I love that. It is going well so far. I will see you guys later. Hi, and welcome to my bed. There's a car alarm currently going off. You know, great things always happening in the neighborhood. I am 75% of the way through Grey Dog now, and I'm still really, really enjoying it. Just for the writing alone, I feel like there really hasn't been a lot of things happening in the book. Like, it is a horror book, but it's not like horror. It's more like horror. Like, it's not screaming at you in your face, very horrific things happening, but there is definitely a very ominous feeling to it all, and a lot of things that you could tell something's off there, but you don't know exactly what it is. There have been some strange happenings in the town and strange happenings with the main character, and we're getting a little bit of a backstory of the teacher that was there before her and like how and why she left and the truth behind it, which was very different than the story she was told when she took this job. There's still a lot of social commentary like I talked to you guys about in my last update, especially with feminism, like those same themes coming up a lot in the book, and I'm really enjoying that. We are also getting a lot of different aspects of Ada's life in the past and some traumas that she's been through. She suffered some horrible abuse from her father and some other things that have happened in her past, and I think the writing is absolutely beautiful and is done in such great detail, and like very descriptive words are used that it really allows you to feel like pain and sadness and heartbreak for this character. Like, I don't know, just the writing is really coming through in that sense, and I'm loving it so much. I would recommend this if you were a fan of the book Leech, which I can't remember who the author was right now, but it has a very similar vibe of like this person being sent to this very remote town where strange things occur and they are there to take a job, and they get thrown into this weird and unknown like circumstance. Very similar vibe, and also like the gothic feel, the time period that it takes place in, and the very small town feel of it really does remind me of Leech, although it is not nearly as confusing to read. Anyway, I'm going to keep reading this the last 25%. I'm hoping maybe since we're getting towards the end of the book, a lot of the horror aspects will really start to pick up and a lot of things will be made a little bit more clear to us. But as far as things go right now, I am loving the writing. It is a very slow build, very slow progression, so this definitely is not going to be for everybody, but I'm eating it up, I'm highlighting, and I'm bookmarking so many things on here, and I'm definitely going to get a physical copy whenever this book releases. Y'all, this book was so good. Like, the easiest 5-star I've ever given a book. I'm actually really sad that I already did my like top 10 and honorable mentions for 2023, because if not, this book would be in there. Like, it was so good. Okay, obviously 100% I recommend. Let's start with that. However, I don't know if I would recommend it broadly because it is a very specific type of horror and it is a very slow build up. Like, there really is nothing big and crazy happening. I don't know why I keep wanting to pick this up, because I'm like used to holding a book up while I talk about it, but because it's an ARC, I don't actually have the cover, so I just have to put this away. What the heck was I even saying? I would not recommend it broadly because it is a very specific type of horror. Like, it is a very slow build-up, but it is so ominous and so haunting and so creepy and so beautifully written. And like I said a million times, the social commentary is there. There's a lot of things to be said about feminine rage. So I would definitely recommend it if you are a fan of like feminine literature or literary horror. Things like Delicate Condition, like I already mentioned, Leech, Yellow Wallpaper, like things like that have very feminist undertones but are also horror as well. There's a lot to be said about womanhood, being a woman, what it is to be a woman in a man's world, and the way that women are viewed by men and the way that they are treated by men, and just the societal pressures and standards that a woman is kind of expected to adhere to. It is very interesting. The author takes like very typical things that were used against women, especially in that time period, like hysteria and like delusions and things like this, and really crafts a great and beautifully written horror story out of it, but also includes like this beast, this creature from the woods, this kind of like ancient, I don't know how to explain it, not evil, but just this ancient creature from the woods, and the way that's incorporated into the story I think is absolutely fantastic. I really love the way that the woods and the nature itself is really incorporated into the story and into the horror of the story. I highlighted so many good quotes that I wish I could share with you guys, but I can't because I feel like out of context, it doesn't really make sense, but the writing in this book was just so beautiful. Like, everything about it was absolutely phenomenal, and I'm so, so glad that I read this. At the end of the day, this is a very slow but beautifully written, haunting story of a descent into madness that also deals with feminine rage and ancient creatures, and I really, really loved it. This is Elliot Gish's first novel. I think she's written some short stories before, but I will definitely be keeping my eye out to see if she publishes more in the future, because this was absolutely fantastic. And like I said, this would definitely be in my top 10 of 2023 if I didn't already make that list. Like, it was that good. Tonight I'm going to be starting What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. This is the sequel to What Moves the Dead, and this one was sent to me actually by the publisher because I won it in a Goodreads giveaway, which I thought was really cool that they were doing a giveaway of it because it's not out yet. This comes out in February. I don't know the exact date. So the first one, What Moves the Dead, is a retelling of the fall of the House of Usher. So I don't know really what we're going to be following in this story, but it says that Alex returns in a horrifying new adventure. So I'm very, very interested to see really what is going to happen in this book. T. Kingfisher has a very unique writing style that is not always easy for me to get into sometimes. So we'll see how this goes. And because it is a novella, what I like to do a lot when I read novellas, especially physical ones, is I will go through and find the physical halfway point and mark it, and then sit down, read the first half, take a little break, a little 5-minute water bathroom break, come back, and then read the second half. So let me go through and find the halfway point. So it is 147 pages, so that would be 93 and a half, I think. If that math is not correct, don't tell me. Okay, so I'm going to read the first half, come back and let you guys know what is going on and how I'm feeling, and then I'll read the second half and see you later. Okay, I made it to the halfway point in What Moves the Dead, What Feasts at Night, which is on chapter 8. So we are following, once again, Alex from the first book, and they are going to, like, their family's, what do they call it? The family's lodge, and they haven't been there since they were very young. And so they arrive there and they find the caretaker dead, and everybody is kind of being weird when they ask, like, how it happened. Like, they don't want to necessarily tell them. Like, there's a part where they say, like, everybody's telling me they don't know. But if that were truly the case and they truly didn't know, there would still be a bunch of stories and theories of how this person died. But instead, people are just saying, oh, I don't know. So it's, like, kind of suspicious. But they search for another caretaker to come in and help them clean up the lodge before Miss Potter, their guest, gets there. So now we are dealing with the legend of this creature that is called the Moroi, Moroi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. If you're hearing weird noises, that's the cat playing with a little bird toy. Anyways, so the Moroi is like this demon, basically, that will come into their houses at night and, like, sit on their chest so that they can't breathe. And then it also explains later on that this is a creature that can turn into a moth. So that was very interesting. I just tabbed the bottom of those pages so I could make sure that I was remembering to tell you guys that and remembering the exact words that they used. There are 2 little tabs that I put in just for things that I really enjoyed the writing of. So this one here is on page 35, and this is when they find the caretaker and they're, like, cleaning up the lodge after they realize that he's dead. And they say, if you've ever dealt with the possessions of the dead, you probably know what I mean. You take things away and leave behind emptiness, and everything you remove, every sheet and pillowcase, every lost sock and old razor, erases a little bit of the dead person's footprint in the world. You picture your own home being carted away piece by piece, hopefully by loved ones and not by strangers, which I just thought was a really interesting inclusion there. And then I really like this. Chapter 7 starts off with Alex talking directly to the reader and saying, "The problem with telling a story, of course, is that you already know that I'm telling you about something significant that happened. It's not as if we sat down together and you said, 'Alex, tell me a tale where you had a pleasant trip to your homeland and the worst menace you faced was the amount of paprika the widow put in the sausages.' No, you wanted a proper hair raiser, and here I am trying to tell you one, whoever you are." And I thought that was really, really interesting, like how they're saying, they describe something that they experienced in the last page, and they're saying, you know this is significant because I'm telling you that it's a story, but me, at the time, I didn't know that was a significant event. So I thought that was really, really interesting. Things are starting to pick up now, so I think the pacing is going really, really well, because it really started to have some strange things happening right before the halfway point. So I am enjoying it so far. I am going to work on the later half now and come back when I have my final thoughts. Hi, I have finished What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. Honestly, I finished it a couple of days ago and totally forgot to do an update, so pardon my scattered brain right now because I'm not entirely sure what I have told you about this book and what I want to tell you about this book. I did enjoy it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I think it is a fun sequel to What Moves the Dead. We have the same characters, but we have a different quirky scenario. I don't know if quirky is the right word, but we have a different scenario, a different adventure that they get into. So I think I told you guys that they were dealing with this like demon presence, this kind of folklore spirit. And I don't really want to say anything else about the second half, obviously, because it is such a short book. Like, I feel like anything more than that could potentially be a spoiler or maybe just give away too much of the story. But if you enjoy What Moves the Dead, you will definitely enjoy this. If you enjoy T. Kingfisher's writing, you will definitely enjoy this. Some more tabs came out in the later half as well, just because of the writing. I really, really loved the writing in the story. I want to share some of the tabs with you, but I don't know if I can or if they're going to have like sort of spoilers. Like, this tab right here is a good quote, but it's literally on the last page of the book, so it'll kind of give away a little bit of the story. So there's some stuff on this page that I thought was really interesting. They're kind of debating like the existence of ghosts or spirits. So Alex is saying, it's not that I'm a skeptic. As far as I'm concerned, ghosts are rather like ostriches. And then they go on to explain, like, I'm not saying I don't believe in ostriches, but I've never personally seen one. So it says, they simply don't play a large part in my life. If I woke up in the night and heard footsteps in the hall, I would not immediately assume it was an ostrich. Why would I? Ostriches are things that happen to other people far away in other countries. And I just thought that was a really fun, like, metaphor or analogy for, like, the existence of ghosts. Like, yeah, of course, if you wake up in the middle of the night, you're not gonna be like, there's an ostrich out there. It just, I don't know, makes me giggle. And then they go on to talk about how Alex was in wars, and they're like, you never heard any ghost stories when you were in the war. And Alex is saying, like, you hear a lot of stories, but you can tell which ones are not true because everything gets so, like, neatly cleaned up. And what does it say? They wrap everything up in a neat little bow, complete with the punchline. The ones you believe are the ones that aren't tidy, the ones that make no sense, which I feel like is very, very true, because when do you ever hear a ghost story and it's like everything just wraps up perfectly fine? Like, things are a little crazy, you know? Overall, I'm giving it 4 stars. I did enjoy the story, I did enjoy the characters, I did enjoy a lot of the quotes in it, and I think that it was a well done sequel. Sometimes you'll have a book where a sequel comes out and you're just like, why did they do this? Like, this totally was not needed after the way the first book ended. But this one, I feel like, was done in such a way where it doesn't totally focus on the story of the first book, but we have those familiar characters, we have familiar writing, and a familiar setting, but a fun new adventure that kind of keeps the same, like, themes or subgenres of the first book. So once again, yes, I would recommend this, especially if you like What Moves the Dead, and that's that for What Feasts at Night. So I started Bad Men by Julie May Cohen, and this is marketed as like a feminist serial killer thriller, I think. I don't think it's classified as a horror, But we are following this woman, Safi, who likes to kill bad men. So she kills like pedophiles and people who have sexually abused others and things like that. So the first chapter, we get introduced to Safi, her first killing, who she killed, why she killed them, and I thought that was really, really interesting. And then from there on, we have gotten other chapters of some other men that she has killed, like number 2 and then number 3. So I'm really enjoying those chapters. Also in the story, we have this man who is a true crime podcaster. So we are getting some chapters from his point of view, and Safi is really obsessed with this man. They don't know each other, they haven't met, but him being a podcaster, and I think he's an author as well, he is a little bit in the public, so she knows of him and she listens to his podcast and is just absolutely infatuated and obsessed with him, and she wants to figure out how she can get him and get with him. So I'm only about 20% of the way through so far. They haven't met yet, but I'm sure they will soon. And I think from here it's just gonna be a story of her obsession, but also trying to plan her kills also. And then we have this interesting element of the man she wants to be with is a true crime podcaster, and he has solved true crime cases before and like helped detectives and done things like that and found guilty people in a lot of true crime cases that he's talked about on his podcast. So I think it'll go a really, really interesting direction, and maybe she will discover this man that she is obsessed with is a bad man. But I'm enjoying it so far. Really enjoying the chapters of Safi killing. I wish there was more of that. But yeah, I'm gonna keep reading and let you guys know how it goes from here. Hi, I am now done with Bad Men. I'm actually done with this entire video, and I just realized now that I never did a final update for this book. So I ended up giving it a 3-star. It is a very fast-paced thriller that it's just easy to keep reading because there's always something happening, like you don't necessarily really want to put it down, which is what I'm always looking for. If I pick up a thriller, I want it to be fast-paced. Like I don't want to have to slog through it. So that was a big plus for this book. This is advertised as like a feminist book or like a female serial killer, and I don't really think that's accurate because when in my head, I think of female serial killer book, I think of things like A Certain Hunger or Boy Parts, and that is not anywhere near what this book is. Yes, we do start off the book learning about Safi's first time murdering a man, and then we learn about some of her later murders throughout the book, but honestly I wish there was more of that because most of the story is focused on her chasing this guy and their relationship and crime solving and things like that, which is fine. Like it was still very, very interesting. There was a lot of elements that I really did enjoy, but if you're gonna like advertise your book as like a female serial killer novel, I want there to be more of a female serial killer in here, you know? The ending I thought was pretty enjoyable as well. I was kind of thinking it was gonna go like one of two directions of something shocking happening, but it didn't go either way. But I don't think the ending was like bad or unsatisfying in any way. Overall, if you want like a very quick bingeable thriller that has a strong female character, there's a lot of crime solving in it, this obsessive type of romance where she like wants to do anything to get to this man, then I think you could enjoy this, but don't go into it being like, ooh, badass female serial killer. Like that description is very misleading, I feel like, but it's not a bad book overall. That's really all I have to say about this one. 3 stars, didn't hate it, didn't absolutely love it either, would still recommend it. So I had a few arcs that were pending, and I was hoping that it would work out where I would get approved for one and be able to squeeze it into this video, and it happened. So I just got approved for My Throat in Open Grave by Tori Bovalino. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I don't know really anything about this book except that it is a Labyrinth retelling, and Labyrinth is like one of my favorite movies ever. I think it's fantastic. So to read it in book form, has me very excited. So I'm gonna start this one and let you guys know how it goes. I am 38% of the way through My Throat in Open Grave now, and all I knew about this before going into it, like I said, was that it was a Labyrinth retelling, which I'm definitely getting the vibes of that, although it is different, but it is a retelling. Like, they're not gonna say the exact same story. But we have this girl, I can't remember what her name is. I'm literally the worst when it comes to like remembering names. Is it important? Do we need to know her name? She's a girl, okay? And she has a younger brother named Owen, who is this baby, and the way she is treated at home is really not that great. Like, her mom doesn't treat her that good, and she kind of secretly inside wishes that Owen was somebody else's responsibility. So he gets taken one night by this person known as the Lord of the Woods, which is like this legend in this town that they have, that he like every year will come and like take a baby, and he like supposedly like eats them and like crunches on their bones in the woods or something. So obviously that is the Goblin King. David Bowie is the Lord of the Woods. So obviously one night she is babysitting, Owen gets taken, and the only way to like make that right is to go into the woods after. Like, they can beg or like plead from the Lord of the Woods to get this child back, but anytime that's happened in the past and the mother or like somebody related to this child has gone in after them, it has not turned out well. Like, they've never returned back to the town. So nobody really knows what is going on in the woods, and there's just all these stories about the Lord of the Woods. One thing I will note so far with the book is that it really like pounds it into your brain. Like every page it was like, the Lord of the Woods is this person, the Lord of the Woods is this person, he said to do this. Like, every page it was just repeating, like, okay, we get it. We get what the Lord of the Woods is about. We know the legend. Do you need to tell me like 10 times? Like, how dumb do you think I am that I can't remember that? Aside from that, it's going well. This, I think, is described as like a horror fantasy. It's definitely more fantasy than horror for me right now. I think it's also tagged as LGBTQ, and so far the only thing that I've seen of that is that we have a character who is non-binary and goes with they, them pronouns. Aside from that, there's not like the main character's not gay or anything, if that's what you're expecting. But we are getting little glimpses of a budding romance, maybe not really, but a budding attraction with our main character and the Lord of the Woods. Like, she was talking about, like, oh my god, his muscles are so hot. But honestly, I'm here for it. Like, I want, like, give me the romance. Come on, come through with that romance. Other than that, I don't have a lot to say. She went into the woods and she met the Lord of the Woods, who was very different than the legends make him out to be, and she says, hey, I want this little baby back, and he's like, well, we're gonna make a bargain, and if you want this baby, then you have to give me something. So she makes a little agreement with him to give him something, and in return he will give her the baby, and she has a full moon cycle to do it, so like a month. So while she is working on her side of the deal, she gets to stay in like this little village where the Lord of the Woods lives, and she gets to stay actually like in his house. But there are a lot of other people within the community that all live together, and the town that she's from is kind of has these legends, like maybe the Lord of the Woods has like this cult following. So she goes in and she's like, oh, are you his followers? And they're like, well, if that's what you want to call us, but like, we're just part of the community here. So it's very interesting to learn things about like their community and their village. And I don't know, other than that, like, it's not giving a lot. Like, the atmosphere is there, the little glimpses of maybe a romance is there, but there's not really that much else to it. I'm kind of sad that there's not like a labyrinth like element to it, because obviously like Labyrinth is about the labyrinth, but once again, it's a retelling, so it's not gonna be exactly the same, so that is my fault. I feel like everything I just said was like extremely scattered, but yeah, 38% of the way through this. I'm going to read more. I'm trying to finish it tonight, so I will let you guys know if I have any further thoughts on it. I am now 80% of the way through the book, and I wanted to do another update before I go ahead and finish it. But really I feel like things are starting to pick up now. Like nothing's really happened since the last time that I updated you guys until now. Some things are developing in the story. There was a little bit of a mystery with this like ghost girl. There are ghosts in the book, which is kind of fun. But nothing was really happening. Like she was just going through like her day-to-day life as she's staying in this place, and she's supposed to be working on this thing for her bargain, but she like hasn't been working on it. It's really just kind of like a journey of like her kind of figuring things out and learning what she wants in life, but nothing really happened, although the romance is making very small little developments, which I absolutely love. Like I'm here for it. But another thing too, I don't know what it is about like the writing style or what, but I just don't feel like I'm there. Like I'm reading the book, but I'm not feeling it. Like I'm not feeling like I'm in the story. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's like, I don't know, when you read a book you hope to get like immersed in the story and like fully surrounded by the atmosphere and the setting in it. I am really enjoying the setting in this, but I'm not feeling it, and I don't know how to explain it other than saying that. Maybe it's because it's a YA book. I don't read a lot of YA, and I feel like when I do read YA, I read it a lot quicker because the writing tends to be a little bit more simple, which is totally fine, but I'm like, I don't know if that's the reason why I feel this way. I can't pinpoint what it is, but there's something that is just like, I'm just like, okay, like it's a book. Like I know as I'm reading it, I know that I'm reading a book versus being like, fully invested in the story and the world, if that makes any sense at all. Anyway, some things are developing, the romance is developing. I feel like this is the type of book where you can kind of guess where the story is going to go from the very beginning. So you're just kind of following along for the journey. But I'm gonna go finish it, read the last 20%, and then I will come back with my final update. I have now finished My Throat an Open Grave, and it's been a couple days, so I don't remember what the last update I gave you guys was, but if it's been a while, like if I didn't update while I was reading it, it's because like the middle of the book, nothing really happened. Like the story progresses until about like 35% of the way in, and then we're just kind of following the main character as she's like in this village and like working on her bargain and just going through her like day-to-day life, and nothing really happens. Like it's sort of interesting, she's trying to solve her little like ghost mystery or whatever, but there's nothing really that interesting that happened, and I think that's what made me disconnect from the story a little bit. We did have little glimpses of her romance developing, which was fun, but I feel like it just kind of goes exactly how you would expect a YA fantasy romance to go. My hair looks crazy this morning. So the middle part was like, but the last 20% or so, a lot of things started happening. There was a lot of events going on, and it really held my attention there because a lot of things were wrapping up and coming together. And I did really enjoy like the last part of the book. There was a little bit of a twist that I didn't see coming, so I really enjoyed that. This book had a lot of commentary on religion and sexism and the way that women are viewed in the world and in society, and how they are expected to do certain things and adhere to certain rules. So that was all very, very interesting. Overall, as like a YA, a young adult read, like there was nothing wrong with it. I think I personally am gonna give it a 3.5. Like it was fun and light, but I probably will not be thinking about it too much after this, honestly. And another thing that I wanted to say, like, I know I've mentioned it before, like it is a Labyrinth retelling, but you can't expect it to be exactly like Labyrinth. But what I think makes Labyrinth so fun and so memorable is all of the different characters and the different creatures that she encounters within the Labyrinth. And you don't really get a lot of that here. Like they are all like human characters. Like there's nothing like, I don't know. You know, there's the illusion of the Lord of the Woods, but like he's just a guy. You know, I don't know if that's a spoiler because that gets revealed like pretty early on and it's very predictable. But then the other people, like she kind of befriends this woman from the village this other person from the village, and they're just like people. So I kind of wish that we got more like fun creatures. Like Ludo is one of my favorites from Labyrinth. So I wish that we had more non-human creatures in this if it is a Labyrinth retelling, but what can you do? Overall, 3.5 stars. If you are going to pick this up, don't expect it to really be horror. For me, it just felt like a dark fantasy, like there weren't really a lot of horror elements in it. But I would recommend it if you want, like I said, just a fun and light young adult read that you don't really have to think very hard about. Like everything is set up very easily for you to follow. So that was My Throat an Open Grave, which was the last arc that I'm reading for this video. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you guys are interested in picking up any of these books once they come out. I would be really interested to hear what you guys think of them if you do get around to reading them. But thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you next time.